Before you set out exploring the mysterious mountain city of Machu Picchu, the floating villages of Lake Titicaca, and the tropical treasures of the Amazon jungle, discover the striking contrasts of Peru's coastal capital, Lima. Ancient and modern, rich and poor, fascinating and entertaining, practical and elegant. Lima is a city of contrasts. Almost a third of all Peruvians call this sprawling metropolis home, and they live in everything from modern high-rise condos to humble hilltop shacks. The painted facades burst with color in summer, but this image is paled by the fog that rises from the Pacific Ocean in winter. In this ever-changing city, you can find a new surprise at every turn. All you have to do is prepare your senses. Along the boulevards of central Lima, you'll be immersed in the sounds of chaotic traffic, while quiet benches await in coastal parks. Everywhere you go in Lima, you can feel the hot desert sun warm your skin, and at the same time, taste the salty sea air. To experience the bohemian side of Lima, follow the Bajada de los Baños, a walkway that runs from the coast through the quaint Barranco district. Stroll over the Bridge of Sighs, a legendary place of forbidden romance between a wealthy girl and a handsome street sweeper. Rich or poor, all Peruvians find common ground in the city's many public parks. El Malecón, a continuous stretch of paths and flower beds, allows you to explore the coastal cliffs of the Miraflores district on foot. It's in modern neighborhoods like this that you almost forget that Lima was built on the ruined pyramids and temples of ancient civilizations. Yet in its heart, you can retrace the steps of the Lima people in Huaca Pugliana, a place of ceremony and sacrifice from around 1,500 years ago. Indigenous Peruvians still observe the rituals and beliefs of their forefathers, despite being devout Catholics today. This religion was introduced to them by Spanish conquistadors, along with the Castilian language and Baroque architecture. To see fine examples of their colonial legacy, visit the Plaza de Armas, which is also known as the Plaza Mayor. It was here that the Spanish explorer Francisco Pizarro founded Lima in the 16th century. His quest to make the City of the Kings the capital of the New World started with the construction of the Lima Cathedral. Inside, look for Pizarro's tomb, early religious artworks, and the gold-plated altar. Pizarro lived and worked in the government palace across the street, which is still the official seat of government today. Take a horse and carriage tour from the plaza, a romantic way of exploring Lima's UNESCO-protected historic center with its typical colonial balconies. Peru gained independence in 1821, but the Spanish influence has never been erased. Take a peek inside inner-city museums and libraries to find stately rooms, soaring glass ceilings, and colorful tiled courtyards. Another highlight is the 18th century Museo Larco, which stands on the ruins of a 7th century pyramid. The colonial mansion in the Pueblo Libre district houses an impressive collection of ceramics, artworks, and golden jewelry from pre-Columbian times. The exhibits show the history of ancient Peru through arts and crafts. After lunch on the patio, cross the garden to the Sala Erótica to see the museum's most talked about pieces. Nearby Parque de las Leyendas, which is Lima's zoo, introduces the wild animals of Peru's remote Amazon jungle to all who can't travel there themselves. Another popular family attraction is Parque de Exposición in the city center, where kids and adults alike love splashing around in the water fountains. As the day turns into night, the park's magical light show is a reminder that anything is possible in Lima. Don't forget, Lima is the perfect stepping stone to the many natural, cultural, and historic treasures that Peru is so famous for. Take your pick from coastal deserts, lush rainforests, fertile altiplanos, and snow-capped mountains to see the many faces of Peru. In the southeast of Peru, at more than 11,000 feet above sea level, lies the city of Cusco. The former capital of the Empire of the Sun is the gateway to the Sacred Valley and the long-lost city of Machu Picchu. Follow in the footsteps of the Incas and venture deep into the mystical Andes to see one of the most glorious places on Earth, Machu Picchu, the city in the clouds. The rise of the Inca Empire is shrouded in myth. According to local legend, the children of Inti, the sun god, arose from Lake Titicaca. One of these sons, the first Inca ruler, founded the sacred city of Cusco. Visit the cradle of one of the greatest civilizations in history and explore the awe-inspiring legacy of the Incas. Their magnificent ruins lie hidden among the city's 16th century Spanish colonial buildings. Cusco was originally laid out in the shape of a puma, with the Sacsayhuaman fortress for its head. This archaeological site offers beautiful vistas and makes a great playground. The present-day Plaza de Armas was the Puma's beating heart, Huacaypata. The Spanish destroyed the Inca palace of Huiracocha and replaced it with a cathedral. Opposite it, on the foundations of yet another Inca palace, they built La Compañía Church. The tail of the puma was represented by Coricancha, the temple of the sun's fabled courtyard. It was the most important Inca temple of all, but the Spanish feared its pagan symbolism and demolished it to make room for Peru's first Dominican convent. Discover Cusco's captivating layers of history as you climb the winding cobblestone streets. Slow your pace to adjust to the thin air and to the Peruvian way of life. Venture into Atunrumillok Street, which illustrates the astonishing masonry techniques of the Incas. These pre-Columbian masons used interlocking patterns instead of mortar, and stacked the heavy stones with a precision that still baffles engineers today. More than 7 centuries and several earthquakes later, you still can't get a fingernail in between the cracks. Take a bus trip to the Urubamba Valley, better known as the Sacred Valley, to see how the descendants of the Incas maintain a living presence in Peru. At Urubamba's colorful market, livestock and crops change hands while mischievous dogs run off with the merchandise. Look out over Peru's fertile plains and snow-capped mountains during a visit to Chinchero, the mythical birthplace of the rainbow god. From this sleepy Andean village, it's not far to the mysterious Morai Terraces. These structures have great acoustics and natural irrigation and cooling, but their purpose remains unknown. Nearby, the salt mines of Maras predate the Inca dynasty by about 1,000 years. The hundreds of terraced ponds are part of an intricate evaporation system constructed during the time of the Chanapata, one of Peru's earliest civilizations. The former nomads established the first farms of the region. In the far corners of the Sacred Valley lies Ollantaytambo. This living Inca city has been inhabited since the 13th century. Climb its towering staircases to a ceremonial temple set in the mountain face. These ruins mark the start of the 4-day Inca Trail to Machu Picchu, one of the world's most rewarding treks. A quicker way to reach the remote Inca city is catching the train to the riverside town of Aguascalientes and then jumping on a bus into the misty mountains. Once the clouds evaporate from the mountain ridge above the Sacred Valley, the true splendor of Machu Picchu is finally revealed. It's a humbling experience to stand at an altitude of nearly 8,000 feet and gaze down at the Inca city below you. Overlooking the glorious ruins, it's easy to imagine the hive of activity this peak must have been almost 600 years ago. It's one of the world's greatest mysteries what became of the Incas who inhabited Machu Picchu. What was once a major bastion in the largest empire on Earth was slowly swallowed by the jungle, only to be uncovered a century ago. The Inca dynasty has come and gone, but Incan descendants still survive in the highlands. These modern-day children of the sun still speak Quechua and continue to live off the land, although many come to Cusco to sell their crops and alpaca woolen textiles. After dusk, when the story of the Incas becomes a whisper in the night, Cusco is covered under a starry blanket, a backdrop so gorgeous that it deserves to be preserved for eternity. Peru's northern coastline is blessed with a year-round mild climate and perfect sets of rolling waves. It's also home to the picturesque colonial city of Trujillo. Yet there is another much more fascinating reason why you should visit. Almost 2,000 years ago, the first settlers of the Moche Valley achieved the seemingly impossible with their bare hands. They created farmland in the desert, fishermen's rafts that could surf the waves, fine jewelry crafted from crude metals, and entire cities out of mud. From the treasure trove of ruins in the sand-swept desert plains, it's clear that the Peruvians developed impressive agricultural, architectural, and artistic insights long before the Europeans arrived. When the Spanish did come, they swiftly created one of Peru's finest and largest cities, Trujillo. Exploring its compact city center is like browsing an open-air museum of Spanish colonial architecture. Everywhere you go, you'll pass colorful mansions adorned with tall window grilles and enclosed wooden balconies. For more than 400 years, the exterior of the cathedral on the northern end of the Plaza de Armas has remained largely unchanged. Step inside to see precious religious paintings and admire the cathedral's central altarpiece with its twisting columns. From the historic center, it's only a short taxi ride to the 17th century mansion of Trujillo's Archaeological Museum. Its exhibits paint a picture of the pre-Columbian peoples of northern Peru. The fascinating pieces they left behind help us piece together their story. Start your tour of the region's famous ruins at the Temples of the Sun and the Moon. Made from millions of sun-dried bricks, these were once the largest adobe pyramids in the world. While the language of the Moche people has been lost, we can interpret their habits and beliefs through their elaborate murals and brilliantly expressive artworks. They were warriors who sacrificed their rivals to appease the gods, yet their pottery shows there was also harmony in their fierce existence. Like the Egyptians, the Moche buried their elite in pyramids. See one of the world's most mysterious mummies at the coastal site of El Brujo, where, as recent as 2005, the Lady of Cao was discovered. The tomb of this tattooed Moche woman also held copper darts and jewelry, suggesting that she was a priestess or warrior leader. It's believed that relentless El Niño rains caused the demise of the Moche culture. By the time the Chimu people arrived, around 900 AD, the landscape had returned to arid coast. Like the Moche, the Chimu cultivated reed to make fishing rafts and used the clay and minerals from the river valley for their building bricks and decorations. Visit their capital, Chan Chan, to explore what was once the largest adobe city in the Americas. Follow the city's maze of corridors to central courtyards, which were decorated with fishnet patterns and animal reliefs. In the late 15th century, the Incas came and assimilated the Chimu culture into their own. Less than 60 years later, the Spanish followed, determined to conquer the New World. These conquistadors stripped the temples and tombs of gold and artifacts and created a new city, which they named Trujillo. They also introduced the purebred Paso horse to the region. World famous for its gait, it has what the locals call brio, a mixture of nobility, pride, and fire. These characteristics proved a perfect match for the spirited Peruvians from the northern desert. And together they perform the Marinera, a show of elegant seduction and fierce resistance. With its long history of resilient people, Trujillo was the first Peruvian city to proclaim independence from Spain in 1820, an event that is commemorated by the Freedom Monument on the central Plaza de Armas. One of South America's revolutionary heroes, the liberator Simón Bolívar, stayed at Casa Urquiaga, which is open to visitors. Colonial architecture, ancient art, and pyramid temples, combined with proud Latino traditions, have made Trujillo the Peruvian capital of culture. Like an oasis in the desert, discovering Trujillo is replenishing for both the body and soul. It's refreshing to see that from these barren grounds, such creativity can sprout.